Okay, so let's talk about the India AI Impact Summit. This thing was supposed to be a massive coming out party, a moment to launch the country as a global tech superpower. But, well, within just hours, it became a masterclass in exactly what not to do. It was a total disaster that went viral for all the wrong reasons. Let's get into it. The ambition here was huge, right? To plant a flag and declare India a leader in what they called sovereign AI. The reality, though, it was just an embarrassing public failure. What happened on that first day wasn't just a bit of mismanagement, it was a complete and total meltdown that made headlines for being a national disgrace. And if you had to pick one thing to symbolize this entire mess, it would have to be a robotic dog. Seriously, this one incident went viral almost immediately, and it pretty much tells you everything you need to know about what went wrong. So, a video starts making the rounds online. It shows a representative from a place called Galgatia's University, and they're proudly showing off their Robodog, which they named Orion. The claim? That this was a homegrown innovation developed right there in their own labs. And, on the surface, it looked pretty cool, like a real breakthrough for Indian tech. But that claim? Yeah, it fell apart almost instantly. I mean, within minutes, people online figured it out. Orion wasn't some new Indian invention. It was a Unitree go-to, a robot made in China that you can literally just go and buy. The attempt to pass it off as their own was just shockingly bold, and honestly, incredibly easy to debunk. And the fallout was fast and, frankly, brutal. As the story just exploded online, Chinese media started openly mocking the whole indigenous innovation claim. The summit organizers, who were obviously in full damage control mode, reportedly kicked the university out of their stall and even cut the power to their booth. So the summit's first big reveal? It wasn't an innovation, it was a fraud. But, the fake Robodog was just the tip of the iceberg. The entire event was a logistical nightmare from top to bottom. It was a total breakdown that affected thousands of people, from the regular folks who showed up to the exhibitors themselves. 3 hours. Just think about that. That's how long many people were stuck waiting in massive lines in the heat just to get in. And why? Because the digital registration system for a high-tech AI summit had completely crashed. I mean, the chaos started before anyone even got through the door. Now, for those who did finally make it inside, things only got weirder. Security started banning the very tools you'd expect to bring to a tech conference. Laptops? Nope. Tablets? Forbidden. Cameras? Not allowed. Some people even reported that car keys weren't allowed in. It was completely absurd. The frustration was just boiling over. One person there called the rules patented stupidity, which, honestly, just perfectly summed up the mood. Here you have an event that's supposed to be celebrating technology, and the organizers were making it impossible for people to actually use it. And then came what might be the ultimate insult, this time to the exhibitors. These are the people who paid to be there, right? Well, they were suddenly forced out of their own booths for hours. The reason? A security sanitization sweep for some VVIP who was coming. So they were just locked out, with reports saying there was no food or water, while all their valuable equipment was just sitting there unguarded. And guess what happened during this so-called high-security sweep? The inevitable. A guy named Dunjai Yadav, the CEO of a company called Neo Sapien, came back to his booth to find that his company's patented AI wearables were just gone. Stolen. So the very security that was meant to protect a VIP had created the perfect opportunity for theft. You can't make this stuff up. All of this chaos, from the lines to the theft, really just pointed to one single massive irony. This summit was supposed to be the crown jewel of the government's Digital India campaign, but the reality on the ground? It was anything but digital. I mean, just think about the disconnect here. At a summit about the future of digital technology, there was apparently no reliable Wi-Fi, which meant that a lot of the AI demos were just failing. And to top it all off, food stalls were reportedly cash only. The big showcase for Digital India couldn't even handle digital payments. The irony is just staggering. So, you can imagine a disaster on this scale was bound to have some serious consequences. And sure enough, the failures quickly turned into a political issue at home and, well, a topic of ridicule abroad. Of course, the political opposition pounced. The Congress Party president, Mallikarjun Kharge, called it a global embarrassment, and he put the blame squarely on the government's incompetence, saying they were more focused on photo ops than on actual planning. Facing this absolute storm of criticism, the government had to acknowledge the failures. The IT minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, actually came out and publicly apologized. He then set up a 24/7 war room to try and fix the logistical mess for the remaining days of the summit. Meanwhile, you know who was watching all this very closely? Chinese state media. And beyond just mocking the whole Robodog thing, they offered a pretty sharp analysis. They basically framed the entire summit as a PR stunt, a play for global visibility, not a real technological leap forward. Their critique really boiled down to three key points. First, they said the logistical chaos proved that India's infrastructure was weak. Second, they pointed out that the country just lacks the raw computing power. We're talking about the GPUs that you need for any serious AI development. And finally, circling right back to the Robodog, they asked, how can you claim sovereign AI when you're relying on hardware made in China? So this whole mess leaves us with a really difficult question. At the end of the day, the summit was a story of two huge problems. You had systemic failure, and you had outright fraud. One is about incompetence, the other is about integrity. For a nation that has ambitions to be an AI superpower, which one is actually the bigger, more damaging problem to solve?